Time Crunch triathlete parents. Today I'm talking about what I do for my run training and what I do to try to maximize the amount of time I have for the run. Well, I run 2 to 3 days a week, and I think the first thing that I notice that I do differently is I track time on my workouts and not miles first. So, and the reason why I do that is, everybody's got a different pace. So if I tell you to go run 3 miles, that might take you 45 minutes. It might take me 30 minutes. So to go and say you're going to do your long run at 10 miles, that might be it might take too long of a time for you, and it might be, pushing your fitness limit a little bit. So time for me is a much better indicator of, and a much better way to track how much fitter I'm getting. So, like a long run might be an hour and a half. Doesn't matter how many miles I get in, that's my long run. And then really what you'll be able to do is track how much fitter you're getting, because you'll be able to, at the same heart rate or effort, fit in more miles in the same amount of time. So that's the first thing I do, is I measure time versus miles, okay? And then a few different things that I do for my key sessions during a week or kind of like a training cycle would be, number one would be, and I think most important, is your long, easy run. And for you, that might start out as 30 minutes and then progressing to 45 and an hour. And depending on what race distance you're doing, it could be up to 2 hours. Now, when I was doing half Ironmans, typically I was doing an hour and a half as my long run. However, you're doing it week in, week out. I've seen training plans where, you're doing a 2-hour run, you're doing a 3-hour run, but you might do that 1 or 2 times. I'm talking about, I'm doing an hour and a half long run week in, week out for months and months and months. And that's how I'm building my aerobic engine, is not just 2 or 3 long runs. It's consistent, medium long runs. And then, depending on the distance again, you might have to up that a few months out of your say it's Ironman or half Ironman, you may have to up the time. But for me, week in, week out, an hour and a half, and that's a solid session. And then, so another key session for me would be a brick. And if you don't know what a brick is, that's simply just doing a bike workout. It could be even a 30-minute bike workout, and then getting right off and doing a run workout. And that could be 10 minutes, it could be 30 minutes. I remember I did a self-driven plan where I would do long rides, like an hour and a half, and then I would do a 30-minute run right after, so a brick right after, and I would do that 2 times a week leading into my half Ironman. And I felt like that really gets you used to that transition, because we're triathletes, we're doing multiple sports. You need to get used to running after the bike. It just makes sense to me. So, and then another key session you can also do now, depending on what distance. Again, if you're like a sprint or an Olympic distance triathlete, you probably should incorporate some kind of interval training. So that could look like, you could start off, if you're early in the season, with like a 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, work to rest. And then, so a workout that I kind of just made up on my own, it's a treadmill workout, and I call it the power hour, and it's kind of what it is. It sounds like it's a 1-hour treadmill workout where I try to get as many miles in an hour as possible. And it's just kind of a fun way to see, what you can do with your fitness, what you can do with pushing your limits. You might do like a 10 to 15 minute warm up, and then you progress throughout that hour. So you might you might put the treadmill up, 2 or 3, tenths of a mile per hour faster, and just go up and up and up, and then just kind of fun way to see how many miles you can do. Kind of keeps you engaged in the treadmill, especially if you have a hard time with the treadmill. It's a great workout for keeping engaged. So another key thing that I do for my run training is measuring intensity by heart rate. And you got to be careful with this, because if we're going time crunch, we don't have a lot of time for zone 2. I'm going to throw that out there. I know there's going to be people out there that, zone 2, I think zone 2 is great. And I think if you can only do zone 2, if you have time to only do zone 2, I think that's great. However, we're talking time crunch, you don't have a lot of time. I do use heart rate though for keeping my one long run in zone 2 for most of the time. And what that looks like for me is finding my max heart rate and then staying at about 65-70% of the max heart rate for the duration of that long run. The last thing I'm going to talk about really is what I do for, where do I run? Mostly all of my training is done on the treadmill. Yes, the treadmill, it's, for me, I don't have a hard time focusing on the treadmill. I love the treadmill. I love the time savings. I can just get changed, go to my basement, turn a fan on, walk a couple minutes, warm up, and get right into my workout. If I'm going outside, I'm going out, I'm turning on my Garmin, waiting for the satellite. That's just every few minutes waiting, and it is pitch black out, and I live kind of in the woodsy area. I'm not going outside. But, when it becomes summer, I will go outside early morning. Also, I will go out maybe at lunchtime. I'll try to take a run at lunchtime a few times out of the year, just to make sure you are getting the pounding on the pavement. But I think the treadmill, you can get a great workout. 1% incline minimum. If you're going to do a long run on the treadmill, do the hill training to where it varies the hill or the incline up and down. And honestly, I've done most of my training for triathlon on a treadmill. And if you're time crunched and you want to race triathlons, it will work. I don't care what anybody says, it will work. I've done it. I've finished plenty of half Ironmans, plenty of half marathons, so it can be done. Is it ideal? I don't know, but it can be done. So hope you enjoyed the video. That's just a few of my tips for time crunch running for triathlon. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to the next training video.